In the 5th year of my engagement to Wang Yan, heir of the Langya Wang clan, he performed the wedding bow with Lin Yingying right before my eyes. His words were cold. You will still be the only heir's consort. I untied my jade pendant and placed it on the ceremonial table where they had bowed. The engagement is annulled. We have no further connection. He was certain I would change my mind sooner or later. When we happened to meet at a tea house, he mocked me for throwing a tantrum. Yet his gaze fell upon the red marks on my neck, and his face turned pale. He blocked my carriage in the middle of the street, acting like a madman. When the carriage curtain was lifted, inside sat Prince Jing, Xiao Ke, with an expressionless face. After being gravely wounded, he roared. Xiao Ke schemed against me. Prince Jing only replied calmly, "You chose this path yourself." In the end, he knelt with every step, his forehead striking the bluestone street, leaving a winding trail of blood. Wan, I regret everything. Red candles burned in the warm chamber. Zhaoze, Li Huan, and a few others clapped and shouted, "Bow, hurry and bow." Husband and wife bow to each other. Lin Yingying wore a wedding dress that didn't quite fit, her cheeks flushed red. Wang Yan was also dressed in red, smiling as he held her shoulders, and the two bowed down together. I stood at the doorway. The maid who had brought me here was already gone. Zhao Zi saw me first. His wine cup fell to the ground, and his face changed. Miss Su." The sounds in the room vanished instantly. Everyone turned to look at me. Wang Yan also straightened up. He saw it was me. His eyebrows twitched slightly, and he casually pulled Lin Yingying into his arms. I walked in. Lin Yingying hid behind Wang Yan, her fingers clutching his sleeve. Wang Yan patted her hand and smiled at me. How did Wan find this place? Yingying is just being naive, only fooling around. He paused. The 3 letters and 6 rites haven't been performed, so it doesn't count. You've always been magnanimous. No need to fuss over it. I didn't answer. I untied that mutton-fat white jade pendant from my waist, walked over, and placed it on the red silk-covered table in front of them. Since young Lord Wang has found the person he wishes to marry, Su Wan will oblige. The marriage agreement between our 2 families is hereby annulled, starting today. Wang Yan picked up the jade pendant, tossed it in his hand a couple times, and suddenly laughed. You even brought this out. Quite a temper this time. He didn't believe for a moment that I was serious. Su Wan, the smile faded from the corners of his lips. Say what you just said again. I looked at Wang Yan, at Lin Yingying in his arms, at all the red filling this room. The engagement is annulled. We are no longer connected. After saying that, I turned and left. From behind me came Wang Yan's unconcerned voice. Let her go, she'll come back on her own within 3 days. The people in the warm chamber dispersed, leaving only Wang Yan, Zhao Zi, and a few others, along with Lin Yingying. Zhao Zi rubbed his hands, looking uneasy. Brother Yan, you are really not going after Miss Su. This matter seems to have gone a bit too far. Wang Yan sat there, fingers caressing that jade pendant, and let out a sneer. Chase after her. As if I don't know her temper. Every time she throws a tantrum, doesn't she always come back on her own? Lin Yingying gently tugged at Wang Yan's sleeve, and asked softly, Young master, this jade pendant is so pretty. May this concubine have a look? I didn't go back to the Su residence, and had the carriage go to the tea house I often visited. I entered a private room and ordered a pot of pear blossom white. By the time Song Wan arrived, the small pot of wine was already empty, and I was facing the window. How much have you drunk? Song Wan took the wine pot away. Is it because of Wang Yan again? He performed a wedding ceremony with someone today. A wedding ceremony. Song Wan's voice rose. Has Wang Yan gone mad? Your engagement is still in place. With who? That Lin Yingying. I nodded and told her what happened in the warm pavilion. After listening, Song Wan's chest heaved. That bastard. You should have ended things with him long ago. 5 years of enduring is more than enough. She leaned closer to me and lowered her voice. My mother has been having tea with some madams recently, and they mentioned several promising young men with good family backgrounds and looks. Shall I bring you their name cards to look at later? I rubbed my temples. I am going to the back to get some air. There was a small bamboo garden in the back courtyard of the tea house, quiet at night. I leaned against a pillar of the pavilion, the night breeze blowing past, the tipsiness still lingering. A person stood in the shadows of the bamboo grove not far away, dressed in a dark brocade robe, his figure straight and tall. It was Prince Jing, Xiao Ke. He didn't know how long he had been standing there. He seemed to sense my gaze, turned his face, and his eyes swept over. I walked over and stopped a few steps away from him. Is Your Highness also here to sober up? I spoke, my voice a bit dry. He didn't answer, just looked at me. After a while, he said, Miss Su can hold her liquor fairly well. Not as well as Your Highness's composure. The corner of his lips moved slightly, occasionally. The night wind grew colder. I was dressed thinly, my arms tightened. He fell silent for a moment, unfastened the dark cloak from himself and draped it over my shoulders. The night is deep and the dew is heavy. He spoke briefly, turning as if to leave. Your Highness. I stopped him, wrapping tighter the cloak that still held his warmth. Looking up to meet his dark eyes directly. Does your residence have sobering soup? His footsteps stopped, and he turned to look at me. Moonlight shone on half his face, the contours clear. After a few breaths, he finally spoke, his voice low. Yes. The side residence of Prince Jing's manor was very quiet. When I woke up, the sky was faintly bright. The space beside me was empty, but the bedding had a sunken imprint, still warm. The nightgown was new, silk material, not my size. The memories were fragmented. I remembered the scent of agarwood in the study. I remembered the coolness of the jade pendant at his waist. I remember when he undid his collar, the faded old scar just below his collarbone. I also remember biting his shoulder when I lost myself. There were very faint footsteps outside the door. A maidservant waited outside holding a copper basin of hot water, her eyes lowered. The Prince Jing's manor carriage sent me back to the Su residence before dawn. I was utterly exhausted and fell asleep the moment my head touched the pillow. I didn't know how long had passed before I was woken by voices. It was Qingdai responding in a low voice outside the door. Miss hasn't risen yet. Perhaps the young lord could. I'll wait for her. Wang Yan's voice came through the door. I sighed, knowing I couldn't avoid this. I propped myself up, casually draped an outer robe over me, my long hair still unbound, and walked to the outer room. Wang Yan was sitting by the table, looking at a brocade box in his hands. Seeing me come out, he looked up, his gaze sweeping over my face. His brows shifted slightly, and he smiled. Really sick. He set down the brocade box. I didn't say anything, just poured myself a cup of cold tea. About yesterday, I figured it out. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. You went to see my mother, didn't you? Said some things about Ying. My hand holding the teacup paused. Why would I go see the madam, still pretending? He laughed, his smile helpless. If not you, then who? Yesterday in the warm pavilion you were upset, felt unhappy, so you went crying to mother, to stir up some trouble for Ying. Wan. Doing this isn't exactly magnanimous of you. So that is what this is about. It must be that Lin Ying said something after returning home, or her family went to the prince's manor and didn't get what they wanted. So they made up the story that I was the one who reported her. And he actually believed it. I never left the manor after returning home yesterday. If the young lord doesn't believe me, you can go investigate. My voice came out somewhat hoarse. Wang Yan noticed it too. His expression froze for a moment, then his smile deepened. Listen to that voice of yours. He shook his head. Even if you are angry, why torture yourself like this? Cried all night. Is it worth it over that little matter with Ying? Think whatever you want. I set down the teacup. If the young lord has no other business, please leave. I need to rest. Seeing me so cold, he wasn't annoyed at all, but rather remained composed. He stood up and straightened his sleeves. Forget it, since you are not feeling well. Just rest and recover. He picked up the brocade box and placed it on the table. This is Bloodbird's nest, newly acquired for the storehouse. It is the best for nourishing the lungs. Stop overthinking. After saying that, he glanced at me with a look like he was soothing a child throwing a tantrum, then turned and left. 2 days later, Wang Yan invited Zhao Zi and Li Huan to a private room in a tea house. Zhao Zi watched his expression and asked carefully, "Brother Yan, is Miss Su's illness any better? You went to see her the day before yesterday. How was she?" Wang Yan took a sip of tea, his expression indifferent. How could she be? It is a matter of the heart. When I went that day, she didn't even want to talk much and her voice was hoarse. Li Huan immediately chimed in. It must be about what happened in the warm pavilion that day. She is still not over it. Plus you later threw that big celebration for Miss Lin, which probably made her even angrier. Let her be angry then. Wang Yan set down his teacup, his tone certain. When has she ever been any different? She acts tough, but she is actually the one who can't let go. She is making such a fuss this time simply because she thinks I really intend to marry that Ava Corporation woman. She is just panicking. That is all. Wang Yan listened, a slight smirk tugging at the corner of his lips, the earlier irritation now gone. Let her be. His tone was relaxed. Give her the cold shoulder for a few days, and she'll come around on her own. 2 more days passed, and Xiao Ke sent someone to say that the plum blossoms at the Western Hills Villa had bloomed, inviting me to come see them. I went. Sure enough, he was standing by the plum grove, draped in a black cloak. Seeing me arrive, he skipped the pleasantries and said directly, "Word from the palace is that His Majesty seems inclined to inquire about the new salt tax policy lately. It is an opportunity." I nodded. The Su family has already prepared the proposal. A proposal alone isn't enough. He turned to look at me, his gaze calm. If His Majesty asks who can implement the new policy, what does the Su family have to stand on? I fell silent. This was indeed the Su family's weakness at the moment. I brought it up to His Majesty. His tone was flat. That I intend to seek the hand of the Su family's legitimate daughter in marriage. His Majesty didn't express an opinion but told me to think it over. My heart stirred slightly, and I looked up at him. If you and I marry, it is the safest option for now. He continued, the Su family gains backing, and I gain an ally. As for His Majesty's intentions, I know my limits. Are you willing to do this? The wind blew, and a few plum blossom petals fell. I thought of Wang Yan's smug face. Is Your Highness serious about forming this alliance? I asked. I always keep my word. His reply was brief. All right, I didn't hesitate. I am willing. He didn't seem surprised, just nodded. Then it is settled. During this time, if you run into any trouble, send word to the manor. If there is gossip outside, don't pay it any mind. I understand. I said. A few more days passed since that conversation in the plum grove. Xiao Ke didn't appear again, but the manor's steward treated me with increasing respect. That day the headmaid came to report, saying the prince had instructed that there was a hot spring estate outside the capital that was warmer, and asked if I'd like to stay there for a while. I understood what he meant. No matter how secret the news of the marriage alliance with the Prince of Jing's manor was kept, some of it would inevitably leak out. Before Wang Yan made any moves and while things remained unsettled, temporarily laying low was a good choice. All right, I'll trouble you to arrange it. I said. Packing up was simple. Before I left, Song Wan somehow got wind of the news and came running to see me off. She pulled me along, looking happy. Going to the manor is good too. It is quiet. You don't know, Wang Yan hasn't been able to find you these past few days, running around like a headless fly. He even went to my house to ask around, but my mother turned him away. I heard when he was drinking outside, he said you were so angry at him that you are hiding away and refusing to see anyone. He said once he coaxes Lin Yingying in a few days and frees up his hands, he'll naturally have a way to make you come back. I listened, feeling no ripples in my heart. Let him say whatever he wants. I got on the carriage. I am leaving. You are on your own in the capital, so be careful. Got it. Song Wan waved at me, enjoy your hot springs." The carriage started moving, leaving the city walls of the capital and all that turmoil behind. The days at the hot spring manor were very quiet. Every day I read books and soaked in the hot springs, a rare peace. Until this afternoon, the estate manager came in to report with a troubled expression, followed by 2 steward nannies from the Sioux residence. "Miss, the old madam of the residence sent this old servant to ask your opinion." The leading nanny Zhang curtsied and handed over a booklet. "The Langya Prince's manor has been sending people to the residence for several days in a row, saying it is on the young lord's orders. They've sent many designs for items needed for the wedding for you to choose from. The old madam says this matter still needs your personal decision." I took the booklet and opened it. Inside were designs for various fabrics, jewelry, and vessels. All very exquisite. The booklet also contained several calling cards from the proprietors of the capital's most famous silk shops, jewelry pavilions, and restaurants. The old madam also said. Nanny Lee added with a strange expression, "The Wang Manor sent word that the villa in the south of the city is already being renovated, to be prepared as the bridal chamber. They're asking whether Miss prefers the Zhangnian garden style or the Grand Northern style, so they can renovate accordingly." I closed the booklet and set it aside. "Return everything," I said. "Tell the messenger that the Sioux family dare not accept such generous gifts, nor do we have any intention of discussing these matters with the Wang Manor. Tell grandmother not to worry about this. If anyone from the Wang Manor comes again in the future, just refuse them directly." The 2 nannies exchanged a glance and breathed a sigh of relief. "Yes, miss." After they withdrew, I gazed at the mountain snow outside the window, and only then did the irritation of being disturbed slowly well up. The quiet days at the hot spring estate hadn't lasted more than a few days before a letter was forwarded from the Sioux residence. A thick stack. The servant woman who delivered it said it was sent directly to the residence by someone from the Langya Wang Manor, and they'd urged it was urgent, insisting it must be delivered into my hands. I opened the letter. It was Wang Yan's handwriting, written densely across the pages. It began with, "By the time you see this letter, your anger should have subsided, right? After staying outside for all these days, you should have had enough of this tantrum." I read on, finding it more and more laughable the further I went. "I know you are upset, thinking what happened last time was too hasty and didn't give you proper face. Fine, I admit it. As long as you come back, we'll act like that never happened. I'll marry you again in grand style. Open the ancestral hall, announce it to the ancestors, with all the proper ceremonies, nothing less than what is due. And let everyone in the capital see that you are the rightful consort of the Wang family's heir, carried in on an 8-man palanquin. That should be good enough, right?" He even wrote in the letter, "There is a new garden built in the east of the city, with scenery even better than the one in the south. If you like it, we can hold it there instead. Clothes and jewelry. Pick the best you want, whatever else you want, just say the word." When I saw those last few lines, I couldn't laugh anymore, only felt a wave of disgust. This is my final concession. Su Wan, don't refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. 3 days. If you don't come back in 3 days, even if you beg me later, it'll be too late. I looked at those words that read like an ultimatum, as if I could see his smug face when he wrote them. I picked up my brush and wrote a few words on a blank sheet of paper. "Your generous gift. I can't accept it. You and I have had nothing to do with each other for a long time now. Stop looking for me. Have some self-respect." I folded the reply and handed it to the estate steward. "Send it back to the residence and have it given to the person who delivered the letter. If the Wang residence sends any more letters in the future, don't give them to me. Just send them back directly or burn them." The steward acknowledged and left. I walked to the window and let out a long breath. After staying at the Sichuan Manor for about half a month, news came from the capital that the Empress Dowager was unwell, and Prince Jing needed to return to attend to her illness. So I returned to the city along with his carriage. Not 2 days after settling back at the residence, Song Wan came running to find me. The moment she came through the door, she first gulped down a cup of cold tea, then said breathlessly in a lowered voice, My dear ancestor, you are finally back. Do you have any idea what that bastard Wang Yan has been up to while you were gone? I was facing the mirror, pulling my collar up a bit more, trying to cover a faint red mark on the side of my neck. Hearing this, my hands didn't stop moving. What has he done now? He is gone mad. Song Wan leaned close to my ear and said rapidly and urgently, "Wasn't it Lin Yingying's birthday a few days ago? He booked all 3 floors of Zuixian Tower, the most expensive place in the West Market, to throw her a birthday banquet. And that is not all, he got some theater troupe from the south, and had them perform for 3 days straight. The feast tables stretched from inside the building all the way out to the street, as if he was afraid people wouldn't know how much he dotes on this beloved lady of his. Now the whole capital is buzzing about how the Wang family's young lord spent a fortune just to make a beauty smile." The more she talked, the angrier she got. "Who is he putting on this show for? He is clearly slapping you in the face." I finished fastening my collar, turned around, my face expressionless. "Oh," Songwan's eyes went wide, "just oh. You are not angry. What does that have to do with me?" I picked up the comb, slowly brushing my hair. "Whoever he wants to throw a birthday banquet for, however much money he wants to spend, that is all his business. I am now the betrothed of the Prince Jing's manor. His affairs are for the Prince Jing's manor to deal with." Songwan was stunned for a moment, then clapped her hands and laughed. Right, I was being silly. You are now the future Princess Jing. You have nothing to do with the Wang family anymore. Let him jump around all he wants. Best if he squanders his entire fortune." After she finished laughing, she seemed to remember something and leaned in mysteriously. "But I heard that birthday banquet was lively all right." Yet not 2 days after, a censor impeached him in a memorial, saying he was excessively extravagant and improper. The memorial has already been submitted to the emperor. The Wang family seems to have gotten a scolding too. My hand paused for a moment. I didn't speak. The sunlight outside the window was just right, falling on the vanity table. A patch of brightness. Songwan was still talking about the gossip in the capital, when her gaze suddenly fixed on a corner of my vanity table, where there was now an inconspicuous black lacquered box. I've never seen this box before. It doesn't look like something your family usually uses," she said curiously. I followed her gaze and looked over, paused for a moment, my tone casual. "Oh, the Prince Jing's manor sent it over a few days ago." "For you?" Songwan's eyes lit up, moving closer to open it. "What good stuff, let me see." I didn't stop her. She opened the box. Inside, there was no gold or jewels, only a black iron token lying quietly, with the character Jing engraved in sharp, fierce strokes. Beside it was a small personal seal, carved with the 2 characters, Xiao Ke. Songwan drew in a sharp breath, and suddenly looked up at me. Her voice changed. This is Prince Jing's private token and personal seal. He gave this to you." I nodded, my tone calm. "He said if I encounter any emergencies in the capital, or if anyone makes things difficult for me, I can use this token to mobilize some of the manor's guards, or go directly to a few of his trusted subordinates. The seal is for me to handle some less important correspondence as I see fit." Songwan's mouth hung open for a long while before she could close it. She looked at the token, then at me. "He just gave this to you like that? It has only been how long? Haven't you two just—" I knew what she wanted to say. What was between us began as a mutually beneficial arrangement. There was no deep affection. Perhaps he finds me reasonably reliable. I smiled faintly and closed the box. He said, "Since it is an alliance, there should be mutual trust." Songwan was silent for quite a while before finally letting out a long breath. Her gaze complicated as she looked at me. "Wanwan, I am truly convinced. Wang Yan was engaged to you for 5 years. What did he ever give you, besides those flashy but impractical jewels and clothes? Did he ever give you even a shred of real support or trust? Prince Jing has only been around for a few days. Forget it. Let's not mention that unlucky thing." She swept away her earlier resentment, a smile appearing on her face as she grabbed my hand. "This is wonderful news. I must celebrate properly for you. Let's go to Yapinsian tonight, my treat, and we won't leave until we're drunk. Looking at her excited expression, I also smiled slightly. Okay. In the private room at Yapinsian, Songwon had drunk a bit too much, pulling at me and talking non-stop. Her chatter was giving me a headache, so I got up to go out for some fresh air. At the corner of the corridor, I nearly bumped into someone. Looking up, it was actually Zhao Zhe. Seeing me, he first froze, then a smile spread across his face as he spoke warmly, Miss Su. What a coincidence. You are here too. The prince and some friends are gathering next door at Lanyue Pavilion. Why not come over and sit with us? The young lord would surely be delighted to see you. I frowned slightly, stepped back half a step, and spoke coldly. Young master jousts. I have long had nothing to do with the prince and wouldn't want to intrude. Farewell. With that said, I turned to go back to my private room, but Zhao Ze seemed unwilling to give up, following 2 steps behind me and lowering his voice. Miss Su, why be like this? The young lord still has you in his heart. He was even talking about you the other day. Miss Lin is just a passing fancy. Just give him a way out, go over and say hello, say a few soft words. And won't this whole thing blow over? I didn't stop walking, too lazy to bother with him anymore. To get back to our Tingshe Pavilion, we would inevitably have to pass by the entrance of Lanyue Pavilion. The door was ajar, with faint sounds of music and laughter drifting out from inside. As I passed by, I instinctively glanced inside. I saw Wang Yan half reclining on a soft couch, his collar slightly open, with Lin Ying almost half leaning into his arms, picking up a grape to feed him. Wang Yan didn't refuse, eating it from her hand, a smile still playing at the corner of his lips. I withdrew my gaze, my face expressionless, and walked straight back to Tingshe Pavilion. As I was supporting the tipsy Songwan and preparing to leave, the door of Lanyue Pavilion suddenly opened. Wang Yan, Zhao Ze, Li Huan, and a few others walked out, apparently also leaving after the gathering ended. There was no avoiding it. We came face to face in the corridor. When Wang Yan saw me, his footsteps paused for a moment. His gaze lingered on my face, then swept over my hands supporting Songwan and finally settled on my tightly fastened collar. His face was expressionless, but his eyes held some depth. Zhao Ze hurriedly smiled to smooth things over. Oh my, what a coincidence. Miss Su is dining here too. This must be Miss Song. Had too much to drink. Need any help getting you back to your residence? No need. I refused curtly, gesturing for my maid to support Songwan properly. Li Huan chimed in from the side, his tone probing. Miss Su has been quite the busy person lately. Hard to even get a chance to see you. Our brother Yan has mentioned it several times, saying Miss Su has quite the temper. And this time you've left him hanging for long enough. Wang Yan didn't speak, just looked at me. The corner of his lips slightly curved. As if silently agreeing with Li Huan's words, Lin Ying followed half a step behind him, timidly glanced at me, and said softly to Wang Yan. Young master, Sister Su doesn't seem to want to talk to us. Is it because I am here that Sister Su is unhappy? How about I go back first? Wang Yan patted the back of her hand, his tone gentle. It is nothing. Then he looked at me again and said, still not over your anger. You've stayed outside for a few days. It is time to come back. Living outside all the time, what kind of look is that? The way he said it, as if I was just throwing a tantrum and running away from home. Zhao Zi also chimed in, that is right, Miss Su, Brother Yan has already spoken. Just let the past be the past. Look, Miss Lin is here too. Everyone can talk it out, and in the future we can still. Young Master Zhao, I interrupted him, my gaze calmly sweeping over the people in front of me before finally settling on Wang Yan's face. I think you are mistaken. I am not angry, nor do I need to calm down. Where I live, who I associate with, has nothing to do with you, or anyone here. Excuse me. After saying that, I didn't look at their varying expressions anymore, supported Songwan, and walked straight past them. Just as I brushed past them, Songwon seemed disturbed by their voices, shifted uneasily, and her arm accidentally bumped into me. I was on full alert, but when she bumped into me, my body swayed slightly, and I instinctively raised my hand to grab the railing beside me. With this movement, the collar that had been tightly fastened loosened a bit. The faint red mark that Song Wan had pointed out in the private room earlier, the one I had deliberately pulled my collar up to hide, was now exposed under the bright hallway lights. The air seemed to freeze for a moment. Li Huan, sharp-eyed, was the first to notice, letting out a surprised and puzzled "huh." Zhao Zi followed his gaze, and his expression changed too, looking at Wang Yan somewhat at a loss. Wang Yan's gaze stopped at that spot on the side of my neck. The laziness on his face and that calm air of having everything under control vanished instantly, his eyes suddenly turning sharp, staring fixedly at that spot. Lin Yingying saw it too. She let out a low gasp, immediately covering her mouth with her hand, eyes wide, looking at me. Then at Wang Yan. I steadied myself and expressionlessly pulled my collar back up, smoothing it out. "Seen enough," I said coldly. "Songwan is drunk. I am leaving first, everyone. Help yourselves." This time, no one said anything. Zhao Zi and Li Huan looked at each other, not daring to breathe. Lin Yingying shrank behind Wang Yan. Wang Yan was still staring at me fixedly, his face grim, lips pressed into a thin line. I didn't linger any longer, supporting Songwan, walking down the stairs step by step, steadily. I could feel that gaze on my back, like a cold knife, following me until I disappeared around the corner. I had just helped Songwan down to the first floor, and before we even stepped out of the restaurant, hurried, heavy footsteps came from the stairs behind us. Wang Yan rushed up to me in a few strides, grabbed my wrist, gripping so hard my bones ached. His eyes were bloodshot, his breathing heavy, glaring at me. "I'll ask one more time, that mark, where did it come from?" Scattered gazes from around us were already turning our way. My wrist ached from his grip, and the anger I'd been suppressing flared up. I raised my eyes to meet his furious gaze. "Let go." Not only did he not let go, he gripped even tighter. "You won't say." "Fine, I'll have someone investigate right now. When I find out who it is, you what?" I cut him off, trying hard to pull my hand back but couldn't budge it, so I simply stopped struggling and just looked at him coldly. "Wang Yan, have you forgotten? We broke off the engagement long ago. We owe each other nothing. Who I am with, what is on my body, is it your place to ask?" He seemed completely stung by the words "who I am with," the veins at his temples throbbing. He suddenly yanked me toward him, his lowered voice full of rage. "Suwan, you were my betrothed. Even if the engagement was broken off, I never agreed to it. You dare let another man touch you?" These words were utterly absurd. I looked at his face twisted with anger, and suddenly felt an unprecedented wave of exhaustion and disgust. "Your approval." I tugged at the corner of my mouth, revealing a smile devoid of any warmth. "Wang Yan, you think way too highly of yourself. What I, Suwan, choose to do or not do has never needed your approval. It didn't before, and it certainly doesn't now." I suddenly exerted force, and seizing the instant he was stunned by my words, fiercely shook off his hand. A visible ring of red marks on my wrist. "Let me make this clear in public today." I stepped back, putting distance between us, my voice clear enough for all the eavesdroppers nearby to hear. From the day the engagement was called off, all ties between you, Wang Yan, and me have been severed. No further connection whatsoever. Whether you marry Lin Yingying, or Zhang Yingying, or Li Yingying in the future, it has nothing to do with me. Likewise, whether I, Suwan, live or die, rise in glory, or fall in disgrace, I ask you to please keep your hands off and pretend you never knew me. After saying that, I no longer looked at his face that had gone deathly pale, then flushed red in an instant. Supporting the still somewhat dazed Songwan, I turned and walked out of the restaurant. Dead silence behind me. It wasn't until the carriage had traveled quite far that a loud crash, as if something had been smashed, seemed to faintly reach us. Inside the carriage, Songwan sobered up quite a bit from the wind, clutching the window and looking back with lingering fear. "Oh my God. The look in Wang Yan's eyes just now. Like he wanted to eat you alive. Are you okay, Wan Wan? It is fine. I rubbed my aching wrist, the finger marks on it clearly visible. Yet my heart felt strangely calm, even a sense of lightness as if a burden had been lifted. Sung Wan looked at my calm profile and gradually settled down as well, muttering, "True. Getting angry at someone like him isn't worth it. But will he come bother you again? After today. As long as he still wants any shred of dignity, he won't for a while," I said lightly, after sending Song Wan back to her residence. By the time I returned to the Su residence, it was already late. A few peaceful days passed. When I went to greet Mother this day, there was a hint of worry between her brows. She held my hand and said, "Wanner, have you heard any gossip outside recently?" "What does Mother mean?" "I don't know where it started," Mother sighed. "But they say that girl from the Lin family went to a flower banquet at Minister Chen's residence a few days ago. When someone mentioned you, she didn't say much else. Just said with reddened eyes something like Sister Su must resent me deeply, and if not for me, the young lord and sister wouldn't have come to this. And also that the young lord pitied her awkward situation and has been comforting her often lately. As this talk spread, it somehow became that you are jealous and intolerant, while she is the poor thing making sacrifices and enduring hardship." Hearing this, I nearly laughed out loud. This Lin Ying, her tricks are still so beneath contempt. Mother needn't pay any mind to this. I patted Mother's hand. If she wants to talk, let her talk. But I knew in my heart, this matter couldn't just be let go like that. As it happened, in 2 days, several prominent ladies in the capital were hosting a tea party, and they'd sent me an invitation too. For this kind of occasion, Lin Ying would definitely be trying her hardest to worm her way in. Before attending the party, I made a trip to Prince Jing's villa. Xiao Ke was in the study. Seeing me arrive, he put down his brush. "Something the matter?" I nodded and said directly, "Does your highness know about the tea party Madame Zhang, the minister's wife, is hosting in 2 days?" "I've heard a bit about it," gesturing for me to continue. "I'd like to ask your highness for a small favor." My tone was casual. On the guest list for the tea party, there is someone named Lin Ying from the censor's Lin family. I don't want to see her at that kind of occasion. Could your highness pass a word along to have Madame Zhang not invite her? Xiao Ke understood. He looked at me, his face expressionless, and only asked, "Just for this?" "Just for this." I nodded. "She is too noisy. I don't want to see her, much less hear those tasteless words of hers." Xiao Ke was silent for a moment, his fingertip tapping lightly on the table. "All right." His response was very straightforward. A trivial matter. He didn't ask why, nor did he say anything else. He just called over a steward and gave a few instructions in a low voice. The steward received his orders and left. 2 days later, the tea party was held as scheduled. The gathering was filled with elegant ladies' conversation and laughter flowing freely. I sat among them, quietly drinking tea. From beginning to end, I didn't see any trace of Lin Ying. However, one madam casually brought it up as if by chance. Wasn't that young lady from the Lin family supposed to come too? How come I haven't seen her?" Another madam smiled with pursed lips, her voice not loud, just enough for those around to hear clearly. "She probably had something come up last minute. Madame Zhang values propriety the most. Presumably she felt some people just aren't quite suited for such occasions." Everyone understood tacitly and changed the subject. Qingdai later quietly told me that Lin Ying had dressed up early that morning, eagerly waiting for the invitation, but never saw anyone come to pick her up. I heard she threw quite a tantrum at home afterwards. Listening, I only gave a faint, The horse grounds on the outskirts of the capital, under a shaded awning. Wang Yan returned from riding, drenched in sweat. Yet that inexplicable restlessness in his heart still lingered. Zhao Zi and Li Huan huddled together, speaking in low voices about something. Seeing him approach, they stopped talking, their expressions somewhat uneasy. "What are you two chatting about? All sneaky like that?" Wang Yan sat down and grabbed the water pouch, taking a few gulps. Li Huan and Zhao Zi exchanged a glance. Zhao Zi leaned in closer, lowering his voice. Brother Yan, just heard about something, and it is a bit odd. Didn't Madame Zhang, the minister's wife, hold a tea party a couple days ago? The Lin family also got an invitation. Wang Yan didn't think much of it. But Miss Lin didn't end up going. Li Huan continued, his voice even lower. The invitation was sent, but the day before the tea party, the nanny by Madame Zhang's side personally went to the Lin family residence and asked for the invitation back. Wang Yan's hand stopped unfastening his wrist guards. Looking up at Li Huan, asked for it back. What was the reason? The wording was very polite, but the meaning was crystal clear. Zhao Zi smacked his lips, said it was lack of consideration, might cause inconvenience, and asked Miss Lin to join next time. Isn't this a blatant slap in the face? Madame Zhang is always so concerned about face and never offends anyone. What is going on this time? Wang Yan's brows furrowed. This indeed wasn't like Madame Zhang's style. He asked subconsciously. Did the Lin family offend the Zhang family? Haven't heard anything. Li Huan shook his head. Besides, even if the Lin family really had some issue, at most Madame Zhang just wouldn't invite them. Who sends an invitation and then asks for it back? How big of a grudge would that require? The Shade Pavilion fell silent for a moment. Wang Yan's mind raced through possible reasons, and finally, a name jumped out uncontrollably. Su Wan. Was it her? Wang Yan's voice was hoarse. He didn't even notice the uncertainty in his own tone. Zhao Zi didn't make a sound, which counted as tacit acknowledgement. Li Huan scratched his head, looking puzzled. But, Miss Su, how did she persuade Madame Zhang? The Su family's influence nowadays probably isn't enough, right? This is too. Wang Yan mentally completed the words Li Huan left unsaid. The Su Wan of before, even when she had been wronged, would mostly just stay home to retaliate, or go through elders to smooth things over. When had she ever used such direct, even somewhat ruthless methods? He looked at his clenched fists on the stone table, as if realizing for the first time that the woman he thought he understood well enough, even somewhat looked down upon, might be far more complex than he had imagined. Brother Yan. Zhao Zi noticed his expression was off and called out to him. Wang Yan suddenly snapped back to his senses, relaxed his hands, and picked up the already cold tea to take a big gulp. He tugged at the corners of his mouth, trying to put on an indifferent expression, but found it somewhat forced. Let her be. His gaze shifted to the distance. The shade canopy fell quiet again, with only the sound of wind and the occasional snort from the horses. After quite a while, Wang Yan seemed to just remember, asking in a seemingly casual manner, Su Wan, what has she been up to lately? Is she still at the manor? Zhao Zi and Li Huan exchanged a glance, both seeing the same confusion and a hint of understanding in each other's eyes. Zhao Zi said in a low voice. Not too sure. Seems like she went back to the city, but hasn't been going out much. Wang Yan grunted in acknowledgement and said nothing more. The study in Prince Jing's residence was brightly lit, yet very quiet. Xiao Ke was discussing matters with someone in the outer room, while I was on the couch by the window in the inner room, flipping through a volume of local chronicles. On the small table beside me sat a plate of freshly tributed lychees, chilled on ice, sweet and thirst-quenching. A faint cooing sound came from outside the window. It was the messenger snow dove that Songwan kept. I pushed open the window, and it hopped inside as if it knew the way by heart, a tiny bamboo tube tied to its leg. I tipped out the note inside, and Songwan's crooked handwriting leaped off the paper. Wan. Major Intel. My brother and his group of noble young masters have been secretly betting on whether Prince Jing hasn't married or taken a bedchamber maid all these years because he has some hidden ailment. Or is there someone in his heart? The odds have gone up to 1 to 10. You are now the prime suspect and insider, so spill some secrets. Heh. I nearly choked on my tea reading it, both exasperated and amused. Just as I was about to crumple the note, the voices discussing matters in the outer room stopped. Footsteps approached the inner room. I instinctively tried to hide the note, But Xiao Ke had already pushed aside the bead curtain and walked in. His gaze swept over my slightly flustered hands and the note spread open on the table. Without breaking stride, he walked straight up to me and leaned forward slightly. "What are you looking at?" he asked. His gaze falling on the note. "Nothing." I instinctively tried to hide the note behind my back. But he had already reached out, his fingertips lightly pinching a corner of the note. I didn't dare resist, and the note ended up in his hand. He lowered his gaze, his eyes lingering on those lines of small writing for a moment. The study was so quiet you could hear the soft crackling of the lamp wick sputtering. After a moment, he looked up at me, his eyes deep, and suddenly curved the corner of his lips ever so faintly. "Nonsense." He casually placed the note on the small table, his tone flat, then picked up a lychee and peeled it unhurriedly. He brought the translucent flesh to my lips. "Try it, just arrived from Lingnan." I looked at his face so close to mine, and that pale white at his fingertips. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. When Xiao Ke's words "any problem" landed, the paper scroll in my hand fell onto the couch. He didn't pick it up, just looked at me, his gaze heavy. The room was utterly silent. I didn't speak, my face burning hot. He suddenly laughed very softly, not his usual cold one, carrying some indescribable meaning. Then he leaned down and kissed me. At first it was just pressed together, warm, carrying the crisp scent of pine and cypress from him. I didn't pull away. He seemed to take it as tacit permission, kissing deeper, with quite some force, leaving me breathless. His hands had wrapped around my waist at some point, tightening more and more. I can't quite remember how we ended up on the bed in the inner room. I only remember the bed curtains being lowered, the light dimming, his breath growing heavier, kisses falling on my neck, collarbone, and lower. His hands were hot too, even through the fabric. I could feel that irresistible force. I couldn't quite take it, and let out a soft moan. His movements paused for a moment, watching me in the darkness, his breath against my ear hot and heavy. Now, his voice was hoarse, "Still have doubts?" I didn't answer, my fingers unconsciously gripping the loosened collar of his inner robe. Beneath the fabric was taut muscle, and a slightly raised old scar. I lowered my head and bit that scar, not hard. He let out a muffled groan, then kissed down harder. When it was over, I was so exhausted, I didn't want to move a single finger. He lay on his side holding me, stroking my back on and off. Outside the window, it seemed to be raining again, pattering softly. Before I drifted off to sleep in his arms, I thought hazily, that damn girl Song Wan, always spouting nonsense. On a late spring afternoon, I rode a small carriage with a green canopy from Prince Jing's villa, back to the Su residence. When we reached a quiet street corner not far from the Su residence, the carriage suddenly slowed down. I lifted a corner of the side curtain, wanting to see why we had stopped, but was met with a pair of eyes reddened from drink, yet startlingly bright. Wang Yan had come from some drinking party somewhere. His brocade robe slightly wrinkled, his hair crown somewhat askew, blocking the carriage alone, still holding an almost empty wine flask. When he saw me, he was stunned for a moment. Then his expression turned impatient, striding over and reaching out to slap the carriage shaft. "Suwan, it really is you. You saw me and still didn't stop. Get down here." The driver of the carriage was from Prince Jing's manor. Seeing the situation, he shouted in a deep voice. "Who goes there? You've startled the noble's carriage, make way at once." But Wang Yan paid him no heed, only staring at the curtain I had lifted, brows tightly furrowed. "I told you to come down, did you hear me? I've drunk too much, my head is spinning, help me back to the manor." His tone was actually like ordering his own maidservant. Looking at him like this, a wave of disgust rose in my heart. Just as I was about to lower the curtain, the light inside the carriage suddenly dimmed. Xiao Ke, who had been resting with his eyes closed all along, had sat up straight at some point. He reached out, past me, and completely lifted the curtain from my hand, revealing the scene inside the carriage. He sat right beside me, wearing ordinary ink-colored robes. Posture relaxed, his gaze falling lightly on the stunned Wang Yan outside the carriage. The drunkenness on Wang Yan's face and that hint of impatient certainty seemed to freeze the instant he saw Xiao Ke. His pupils contracted sharply, mouth slightly agape, the hand holding the wine pot frozen in mid-air. Xiao Ke didn't speak, just looked at him, his gaze calm and unruffled, yet carrying an invisible pressure of its own. Wang Yan's face quickly flushed red. He was drunk and hadn't even recognized Xiao Ke. He shouted angrily, "Who is in the carriage? Suwan Yu. How dare you? Move aside." I finally spoke, my voice cold and hard. "I am asking you who he is." He acted as if he hadn't heard, instead stepping closer, reaching out as if to grab the carriage shaft. The two guards who had been escorting beside the carriage moved instantly. Their blades remained sheathed. But in a flash, they had already positioned themselves firmly in front of the carriage, blocking Wang Yan. One of them said in a low voice, "This is a noble's carriage. No trespassing. Step back." Being blocked, Wang Yan burned with even greater fury. He glared at the two guards who were clearly well-trained with cold, stern auras, then glanced at the distinctive hidden patterns on the sabers at their waists, different from those of ordinary households, and finally belatedly realized that this was probably no ordinary outsider. The anger on his face was gradually replaced by shock and uncertainty, but he still refused to back down, pointing at the carriage interior and growling at me. "Suwan, you are really something. Finding someone to go against me. You think this will?" "Wang Yan," Xiao Ke finally spoke, his voice not loud, yet clearly cutting off Wang Yan's words. He didn't even spare Wang Yan another glance, simply saying to those outside the carriage in a flat tone, "Move out." "Yes." The driver and guards answered in unison, giving Wang Yan no further chance to cause trouble. The carriage started smoothly, bypassing him as he stood frozen in place and drove forward. I lowered the carriage curtain, blocking out that gaze fixed intently on the carriage from outside. Inside the carriage, it was completely quiet. "So this is how he acts when drunk." Xiao Ke's voice came from beside me, his emotions unreadable. "It has always been this way." I closed my eyes and rubbed my temples. I just felt exhausted, along with a lingering sense of embarrassment that wouldn't go away. The carriage drove farther away, leaving that unpleasant episode behind. But I knew in my heart that with Wang Yan's temperament, this matter wouldn't end so easily. Sure enough, the next day at noon, Song Wan came running over with a pale face, her hand still trembling as she grabbed mine. Wan, this is bad. Wang Yan. Wang Yan drank until midnight at Zuisian Tower last night, crying and cursing, saying so many awful things. Later Zhao Zi and the others barely managed to calm him down and sent him back to the prince's manor. But before dawn today, he went crazy for some reason, rode out of the city alone, saying he was going to find you and get answers. Then on the official road, the horse got spooked somehow, and he flew straight off its back, crashing into a hitching stone by the roadside. I heard there was so much blood, and when they carried him back he wasn't making a sound at all. The imperial physician is still at the manor and hasn't come out yet. Song Wan caught her breath and continued. Zhao Zi later secretly told my brother that Wang Yan kept muttering last night, saying the person in your carriage was definitely someone you found just to spite him. Some blind fool, and he was determined to find out who. He also said you were just throwing a tantrum, and once he recovered, he'd have ways to make you obediently go back. He never once thought you would actually be with someone else. So that is how it was. Until the very moment before he fell from his horse. He still stubbornly believed that everything I did, including sharing a carriage with Xiao Ke, was only to spite him. What did the imperial physician say? I asked. He is badly hurt. His arm is broken, his ribs seem to be broken too, and the scariest part is his head. It cracked open, and he has been unconscious the whole time. The Wang family is in complete chaos right now. His mother has fainted from crying several times. I remained silent for a long while, then finished the now cold tea in my cup. That slight heaviness from hearing of such a terrible state was gradually replaced by a deeper sense of absurdity. I see. In the end, those were the only words I said. Wang Yan was unconscious for 5 days and barely survived, but his injuries were extremely severe, requiring long-term bed rest, and he had wasted away beyond recognition. Rumors of the imperial marriage bestowment circulated quietly in higher circles. But perhaps because of Wang Yan's serious injuries and the Langya Wang manor's plea for leniency, the formal decree had not yet been openly issued. That day, as I was reviewing the draft of the betrothal gift list sent by Prince Jing's manor, Qingdai came in again holding a palm-sized flat box. Her expression complicated. Miss the Wang manor has sent someone with something again. It is an old nanny from the young lord's side, kneeling and kowtowing outside the side gate, saying the young lord woke up briefly yesterday, refusing all food and water, only repeating that he must see you once, that there is something he must ask you in person. If you don't go, he'll refuse treatment. This box. The young lord insisted it be delivered into your hands. I opened the brocade box. Inside there was no letter, only a dragonfly hairpin of red gold inlaid with kingfisher feathers. Its wings thin as cicada wings. One of the coming-of-age gifts he gave me when I was 14. I had worn it a few times, but later found it too showy, so I put it away. I didn't expect he still remembered. Beneath the hairpin lay a small piece of plain silk, on which trembling brushstrokes, dipped in what might have been medicine or something else, had scrawled crooked words. The old keepsake remains as yesterday. But can the heart return? One meeting, one word, I beg for your mercy. Looking at that hairpin and those words, I only felt a surge of stifled anger lodged in my chest, suffocating me with frustration. Even at this point, lying on his sickbed, he was still using this method, using old affections, using his incurable condition to try to emotionally blackmail me. I put the hairpin back in the box and closed the lid. Take it, I said to Qingdai. My voice calm, break it and throw it away in front of that old servant. Tell her, whether her young lord lives or dies is the concern of the prince's manor and the imperial physicians. It has nothing to do with me, Suan. If he himself doesn't want to live, no one can save him. Tell him to rest and recover properly. And stop doing these things that only invite ridicule and pain his loved ones. The doors of the Su residence will not open for him again. If there is any more disturbance, it won't be as simple as throwing things away. Seeing my icy expression, Qingdai dared not say more and quickly retreated with the box in her hands. I walked to the window, pushed it open, and took a deep breath of the cool late spring air. He would never understand. Some things, once broken, are simply broken. Old things tainted with filth, even gilded in gold, only make people sick to look at. Half a month later, the palace held a small banquet for several princesses approaching their coming-of-age ceremony, and I was among those invited. The banquet was set in the warm pavilion of the imperial garden, the atmosphere harmonious and cheerful. Stepping out midway to change clothes, I slowly made my way back along the corridor. Outside the corridor lay a rockery built from Taihu stones, secluded and rarely visited. Just as I passed an opening between the rocks, a hoarse, weak voice suddenly came from the shadows nearby. Suwan. My steps faltered, and I turned my head to look. There sat Wang Yan, leaning against a stone bench behind a boulder, wrapped in a thick fur cloak. His complexion was ashen, his lips bloodless, his left arm still bound in splints. He had grown so thin, he was nearly unrecognizable. Only those eyes of his fixed on me unwaveringly, churning with unwillingness, resentment, and a faint, desperately suppressed glimmer that bordered on pleading. He had actually managed to get into the palace and was waiting here. Young Lord Wang. I stopped in my tracks, keeping several steps between us, my tone distant and cool. Your injuries haven't healed yet. You shouldn't be out in the wind, you'd best return to your manor to recuperate. He tugged at the corner of his mouth, revealing a smile uglier than crying. You know perfectly well who I have to thank for ending up like this. I looked at him and said nothing. He took a breath, as if gathering all his strength, stared at me, and asked word by word, who was the person in the carriage that day? Was it Prince Jing? So what if it was? So what if it wasn't? I retorted. So it really was him. His eyes darkened, then ignited with an obsessive flame. How far have things gone between you two? Suwan, don't be a fool, he is a prince. His Majesty's sharpest blade. If he marries you, what sincerity could he possibly have? He just wants to win over your Su family. Or take revenge on our Wang family. What good could possibly come from being with him? Listening to his speculation and advice, I suddenly found it somewhat laughable. Even now, he still judged others by his own measure, and still put on that condescending attitude of, I am doing this for your own good. Young Master Wang is overthinking, I said calmly. What becomes of me in the future is my own affair. You needn't trouble yourself. He was seething, suddenly breaking into violent coughs. An abnormal flush rose on his pale face, his chest heaving violently. It took him a long while to steady his breathing, his voice even hoarser, laced with despair. Are you truly this heartless? Our 5 years, 5 years. What about those 5 years? I interrupted him, my voice clear and calm, echoing among the silent rockery. 5 years of tolerance, 5 years of humiliation. 5 years watching you philander and enjoy yourself outside, while still having to maintain your dignity. Wang Yan, those 5 years I didn't owe you. You owed me, now, we're even. He seemed to be struck hard by the words. We're even. His body swayed, barely able to stay steady. That last bit of light he'd been forcing in his eyes finally extinguished completely, leaving only a desolate, deathly stillness. He opened his mouth as if wanting to say something more, but in the end couldn't utter a single word. I gave him one last look, that look, calm and unruffled, as if regarding an inconsequential stranger. Then I turned around and walked along the corridor bathed in warm spring sunlight, step by step, toward the warm pavilion where faint sounds of laughter drifted from nearby. Behind me, the shadows of that rockery, and within those shadows, that once familiar figure now reduced to nothing but wretchedness and obsession, along with those unbearable 5 years. All were finally, thoroughly, permanently sealed away in another world. A few days later, the princess consort of Langya personally visited the Su residence. Mother received her in the front hall, and I sat beside her. Lady Wang wore a look of guilt, holding my mother's hand. Elder sister, Yanner has been disgraceful and wronged young Wan. Today I've come on his behalf, and on behalf of the Wang household, to offer an apology. Mother responded politely, simply saying that their fate had run its course, and each should live well on their own. Just as we were speaking, a commotion came from outside. It was actually Wang Yan who had barged in. His face was ashen, barely supported by 2 servants, his left arm still in a sling, yet his gaze was locked dead on me. Yanner, your wounds haven't healed. What are you doing here? Go back now. Madame Wang was both shocked and furious. Wang Yan ignored her, pushed the servants aside, staggered 2 steps, pointed at me and rasped at Madame Wang. Mother, you are still here to apologize. Do you even know your son was set up from beginning to end? It was all a trap laid by him, Prince Jing Xiaoke. He turned to me, his eyes bloodshot with a kind of madness. Suwan, didn't you want to know how it just so happened that you stumbled upon the wedding ceremony in the warm pavilion that day? I investigated. The maid who led you to the warm pavilion wasn't even from my household. She was a spy planted by Prince Jing's manor years ago. Lin Yingying being able to sneak into my poetry gathering that day was also because someone secretly passed along information and showed her the way. Even the times afterward when I happened to be intimate with Ava Corporation in front of you. His people were there fanning the flames. Xiaoke. He had his eyes on you long ago. He schemed deliberately, just to make me slip up, to make your heart go cold, so he could swoop in. His chest heaved violently, his voice hoarse. Summoning with such a vicious mind, such deep schemes. You dare marry him. The hall fell into dead silence. Madame Wang's face was deathly pale, and Mother also furrowed her brow tightly. I sat there, watching Wang Yan's crazed appearance, yet felt surprisingly little turmoil in my heart. Of course, with Xiaoke's methods, if he truly wanted to make something happen, he naturally had his ways. This explained many coincidences. Just then, a calm voice sounded from outside the hall. Done talking. Xiao Ke walked in slowly, dressed in black robes with a jade belt. His expression calm. His gaze swept lightly over Wang Yan. Finally landing on me, he nodded slightly before turning to Wang Yan. This prince indeed knew that maid's background and did not stop Ava Corporation from getting close to you. In fact, on some occasions when you wanted to show off in front of her yet would displease Suwan, this prince's people may have offered a word or two of encouragement. His candor was startling. Xiao Ke shifted his tone, his voice steady. The wedding ceremony in the warm chamber, you agreed to it yourself. All those intimate moments with Ava Corporation, you did them yourself. Did this prince ever hold a knife to your neck, forcing you to do those absurd things and break her heart? Wang Yan choked, his face flushing red. The path was your own choice. Xiao Ke said coolly. This prince merely made your choices go more smoothly, and let her see things more clearly. As for who Suwan chooses, he looked at me, his gaze deep. That is her own decision. Your mistakes, your regrets, none of it concerns her, and they're not worthy of being reasons to accuse this prince. After saying this, he no longer looked at Wang Yan and gave a slight bow to Madame Wang. Princess, your esteemed household's heir has not recovered from his injury and is emotionally agitated. It would be best for him to return to the manor to recuperate. Miss Su was startled. This prince shall take his leave first. He turned around and extended his hand to me. I placed my hand in his palm and left this suffocating front hall with him. After leaving the front hall, Xiao Ke did not let go of my hand. We walked in silence for a while and stopped under the garden corridor. Scared. He turned his head to look at me. I shook my head, for that farce, and for the pitifulness of Wang Yan still attributing the main cause to others' schemes even now. Xiao Ke was silent for a moment, then took out a formal invitation card with gold and silver flecks from his sleeve and handed it to me. On it, the wedding date was boldly written in vermilion ink. The 8th of next month, Prince Jing Xiao Ke would marry the legitimate daughter of the Su family, Wan. Below were the seals of the Prince Jing's manor and the imperial clan court. His Majesty's edict for the bestowed marriage has been sealed. I took the weighty invitation. Finally, it had come to this. At this moment, Wang Yan actually broke free from the servant's support again and chased to the corridor. He saw the invitation in my hand. His pupils contracted sharply, and his whole body seemed drained of strength, swaying, as he said hoarsely, You too? I turned around facing him, and gently placed the invitation in my hand on the stone railing by the corridor. Crown Prince. My voice was clear and calm. The date of my wedding to His Highness Prince Jing has been set for the 8th of next month. When the time comes, you are welcome to attend the ceremony. Wang Yan stared fixedly at the invitation, then suddenly looked up at me, his lips trembling. The light in his eyes completely shattered, leaving only endless bleakness and despair. He opened his mouth as if wanting to curse, to beg, but in the end only let out a broken, cornered beast-like whimper, and collapsed limply to the ground. Xiao Ke wrapped his arm around my shoulder, turned around, and never looked back. Let's go, he said. Go back to try on the wedding dress. That night, Xiao Ke was in my room, under the candlelight. His brows and eyes were deep and profound. Everything he said today is the truth. He got straight to the point, hiding nothing. I knew you often went to that villa, and that maid was my person. Ava Corporation's father and brother needed something from me, so I gave her the chance to get close to Wang Yan. I also knew about everything that happened afterwards, and was happy to see it come to fruition. His gaze open and frank. I am indeed no gentleman. I am good at scheming and using tactics. When I want you, I clear the obstacles and pave the way. Would you find this unbearable? I gazed at him, remembering the glaring red in the warm chamber, remembering Wang Yan's matter-of-fact contempt, remembering the hardships the Su family had endured over these years, and also remembering the respect, reliance, and honesty this person before me had given in this deep night. Even without you fanning the flames, I said slowly, With Wang Yan's nature, those things would have happened sooner or later, perhaps just with a different person. In a different way. Your scheming merely let me see clearly earlier, suffer less torment, and gave my Su family a more secure path. I met his gaze. I chose you, never because you are a saint, but because you gave me a choice, and gave me the confidence to keep going. What we want is an alliance, a way forward, not anyone's confession, and certainly not a blessed match that requires constant compromise. Xiao Ke gazed at me deeply, that last trace of tense wariness in his eyes melting away like ice and snow, transforming into a profound warmth. He extended his hand, palm facing up. I understand, he said softly, grasping the hand I placed in his palm. In the years to come, I will never fail the choice you made today. The wedding day drew near, the entire city festooned with lanterns and decorations. Royal festivity filling the air. This morning, autumn rains suddenly began to fall. I was trying on the phoenix crown for the wedding day in front of the mirror when Qingdai stumbled in, her voice trembling. Miss. Something's wrong, young Lord Wang. He is on the long street in front of our residence, taking one step and kneeling, kowtowing toward our gates. He has already knelt through half the street, his forehead hitting the bluestone slabs, thud after thud. Blood mixed with rainwater streaming down his face. So many commoners are gathered watching. I walked to the window and pushed it open a crack. Bitter wind and cold rain hit my face, mingled with faint clamor from afar. At the end of the long street, a figure in the mud was kowtowing, one bow at a time, excruciatingly slow and heavy. Each time he raised his head, you could see the glaring crimson on his forehead. I recalled a long time ago, also on a rainy day, the young Wang Yan had sworn to the heavens, Wan, if I ever wrong you in this life, let me kneel and kowtow step by step, from the east of the city to the west, to beg your forgiveness. At the time, I only found it childish and laughable, never expecting it would be fulfilled under such wretched circumstances. I closed the window, shutting out the wind, rain, and clamor. Pay it no mind. I sat back before the mirror, readjusting my phoenix crown. If he wants to play the victim, let him play to his heart's content. It has nothing to do with the Su manor, and even less to do with Prince Jing's manor. In the bronze mirror, the phoenix crown and rosy cloud cape, magnificent and dazzling, reflected my calm, unruffled eyes. News that Wang Yan had knelt step by step along the long street, staining the flagstones with blood until he collapsed from exhaustion, and was carried back to the manor, quickly spread throughout the city. When Song Wan came running to tell me, her expression was complicated. He really knelt the entire street, kowtowed until his forehead was a bloody mess. The imperial physician said he lost too much blood, and it triggered a fever from old wounds. He'll probably be bedridden for several months this time. I was trying on the earrings for the wedding before the mirror, and upon hearing this, my hands didn't pause. That attendant by his side secretly sent word to the manor several times, saying the young lord keeps calling your name in his delirium, won't touch food or water, and won't listen to anyone. He begs you to at least send a message in, to persuade him to take some medicine. Song Wan sighed. He does look quite pitiful. Pitiful people always have something hateful about them. I put down the earring. His life or death is for the Wang manor and the imperial physicians to worry about. What does it have to do with me? Just as we were talking, word came from the front courtyard that the princess of Langya had come again. This time she was speaking with my mother in the flower hall. When I went over, Madame Wang's eyes were red-rimmed, holding my mother's hand, her voice choked. Elder sister, I really have no face to ask this. But Yanner, the way he is now, he won't listen to anyone, only thinking of little Wan. Could you let little Wan go see him just once? Even just say one word to make him take his medicine. I promise. Just one look. I absolutely won't put her in a difficult position. My mother gently patted Madame Wang's hand, her tone warm yet firm. Sister, I understand your difficulties. But Wan'er is now the betrothed princess of Jing, by His Majesty's decree, with all of the capital watching. Visiting the Wang manor to see a patient at this time would be improper, and could easily invite gossip, which wouldn't be good for either of the children. She paused for a moment, then continued. If you ask me, young people have their own hang-ups and only the one who tied the bell can untie it. If Yanner's troubles stem from Wanner and the Prince of Jing, why not let His Highness the Prince of Jing go talk to him? They're about the same age, and both are sensible people. Maybe they can clear the air. Upon hearing this, Lady Wang's face turned pale. She shook her head with a bitter smile. How could that work? If His Highness the Prince of Jing goes, I am afraid Yanner might fight fire with fire. My mother's tone remained gentle, yet left no room for argument. A stubborn illness needs strong medicine. It is settled then. I'll have someone send word to the Prince of Jing's residence later. You should ease your mind too, sister. Yanner is blessed by fortune. He'll be fine. Lady Wang opened her mouth as if to speak, but in the end said nothing more. She sighed, rose and took her leave. A few days later, Xiao Ke indeed went to the Langya prince's residence. I didn't ask what they talked about, and he didn't bring it up on his own after returning. It was Song Wan, however, who somehow got wind of some news and came running to tell me. I heard His Highness the Prince of Jing really went. It was just him and Wang Yan alone in the room, talking for quite a while. Song Wan lowered her voice, her expression peculiar. The servant standing guard outside said they heard Wang Yan shouting hoarsely, saying things like you schemed against me. It was all your trap from Lin Yingying onwards. Without you, Wan Wan and I wouldn't have ended up like this. How did His Highness reply? I asked. Couldn't hear clearly, he seemed to just reply with one sentence. Song Wan thought for a moment. Your own conduct is improper, your heart is unsettled, what does that have to do with others? I lowered my eyes, fiddling with a newly acquired mutton fat jade bracelet on my wrist. Those words did sound like something he would say. And then. After that, there wasn't much loud noise inside. Later, His Highness Prince Jing came out, looking as usual. As for Wang Yan, I heard after Prince Jing left, he was willing to take his medicine, but became even more silent, sometimes not saying a single word the whole day. Song Wan said, pursing her lips. If you ask me, he deserves it. If he knew it would come to this, why did he act that way in the first place? I pushed the jade bracelet back onto my wrist, the cool touch pressing against my skin. Wang Yan lay bedridden, with serious injuries, and the Wang residence had been closed to visitors for many days. This morning, however, someone was kneeling outside the main gate of the residence. Lin Yingying had changed out of her usual fine silks, wearing a plain-colored dress that was neither old nor new, with no hairpins or ornaments on her head. A small desk was placed before her, laid out with paper and ink, and she was hunched over, copying something stroke by stroke. Her posture was respectful, her expression mournful, standing out particularly against the solemn vermilion gates of the residence. The residence's gatekeeper initially came forward to drive her away, but she raised her tear-filled eyes, her voice faint and weak. This humble woman knows her lowly status, and dares not ask to enter the residence. I only wish to copy scriptures and pray for blessings for the young lord here, hoping he recovers soon. My sincerity can be witnessed, I have no other requests. After saying this, she kowtowed deeply again and continued copying. She was a woman, and with such a sincere posture of praying for blessings, the gatekeeper found it difficult to forcibly drag her away, fearing it would invite criticism, so he had no choice but to report inside. When the news reached the inner courtyard, Madame Wang heard it and only waved her hand tiredly. If she wants to kneel, let her kneel. Have someone watch her, don't let her make noise, and don't let her approach the mansion gates. Lin Yingying knelt there from dawn until dusk. She seemed tireless, finishing one scroll and moving on to the next. Occasionally, passers-by would stop and point, and she would shed tears in silence, appearing ever more pitiful, yet determined. Gradually, some began to gossip privately, saying that although this Ava Corporation woman was of humble origins, her devotion to the young Lord Wang was evident for all to see, praying so sincerely, even when he was gravely injured. Truly a rare sight. The sutras she copied and the medicinal recipes she supposedly found and brewed herself were sent through the gatekeeper every day. Though they sank like stones into the sea with no response, she continued day after day, unwavering in her resolve. After kneeling for 3 or 4 days, the Wang mansion's gates remained tightly shut, with no one paying her any attention. Lin Yingying finally couldn't hold back any longer, and set her sights on me. That day, she came to the Su mansion to request an audience. I didn't want to see her, but thinking of the farce she had staged at the Wang mansion's gates, I eventually had someone bring her to the side hall. Only a few days unseen, she had indeed become quite haggard, with dark circles under her eyes. Upon seeing me, before speaking a word, she knelt and pressed her forehead to the ground. Miss Su, I beg you to show mercy and help this humble woman. Her voice was choked with sobs. My devotion to the young lord is utterly sincere. Heaven and earth can bear witness. Now I only wish to enter the manor to attend to his medicine and see him recover with my own eyes. But the Wang manor won't let me in. The young lord in his current state only listens to you. I beg you, please speak to the young lord and grant me this wish. I am willing to work like an ox or horse to repay your great kindness. I watched her tearful performance, feeling no ripple in my heart. Miss Lin, I sat unmoved. The matters between you and the young lord are not for an outsider like me to inquire about, much less interfere with. Whether the young lord sees you, whether the manor permits your entry, that is governed by the manor's rules and the young lord's wishes. It is not my place to comment. But the young lord, what becomes of him is his own affair. I cut her off. I am about to be married, and right now I only care about the ceremonial protocols of Prince Jing's manor. As for you, if you truly wish to pray for blessings, where can you not do so? Why insist on lingering before the manor gates? Please leave. Having said that, I no longer looked at her momentarily dazed yet subtly resentful face, and said to Qingdai, see Miss Lin out. If Miss Lin comes again in the future, there is no need to announce her. Lin Yingying was asked to leave. Before she went, that final glance was filled with despair, and a barely perceptible trace of bitter resentment. Lin Yingying had hit a hard wall with Su Wan. Yet she did not give up her vigil before the gates of the prince's residence. She seemed dead set on playing this act to its fullest. However, what is fake can never become real. Although the prince's residents ignored her, they were not unobservant. Princess Consort was still uneasy after all, and ordered her trusted nanny to carefully investigate the sincerity. She delivered each day. This investigation uncovered quite the joke. That thick stack of seemingly neat scripture scrolls was seen through at a glance by the experienced nanny. The handwriting was sloppy and careless. Many passages were copied in the wrong order, and even unrelated lines of poetry were mixed in, clearly showing an absent mind and a perfunctory effort. The so-called medicine dregs from personally seeking renowned doctors and devoutly brewing remedies turned out to be nothing but the cheapest, most common scraps of herbs from an ordinary pharmacy. Moreover, servants recognized that the one lighting the fire and brewing medicine at the street corner for her each day was actually her personal maid. She herself had never even touched the medicine pot. All this verified evidence was sent together to the bedridden Wang Yan. According to those present at the time, Wang Yan looked at the flawed scriptures and the fabricated evidence, his face turning terribly grim, and finally uttered only 2 words, bitch. He immediately gave the order to have Lin Yingying, still kneeling outside the gates, dragged away and thrown back to the Lin family, and had someone deliver a message. From now on, no one from Ava Corporation shall ever set foot in the prince's manor again. All previously bestowed gifts, except for the clothes on her person, were to be reclaimed. Lin Yingying's meticulously planned performance of devotion came to a complete end in the most disgraceful manner. Not only did she fail to set foot in the prince's manor, but she also completely exposed her hypocritical and greedy nature, shattering even the last bit of her infatuated reputation that she had relied on to survive. I heard she was severely scolded by her father and brothers. Confined at home. and never heard from again. When the news reached the Sioux residence, I was trying on the auspicious dress for the grand wedding. The red gown was like fire, embroidered with soaring golden phoenixes. Got it. I smiled slightly at my elegantly dressed reflection in the mirror, then turned to Qingdai and said, "The waist of the auspicious dress could perhaps be taken in a bit more. It should fit perfectly." "Yes, miss." On the wedding day, Prince Jing's manor was decorated with lanterns and colored banners, with drums and music resounding through the sky. Wearing the wedding dress embroidered with golden phoenixes and bearing the heavy phoenix coronet, I was supported by the wedding attendant, walking step by step across the courtyard covered with red felt. In my ears were the deafening sounds of firecrackers, the laughter and congratulations of guests. Through the swaying pearl tassels, I could see Xiao Kei's tall figure in red ahead. "Bow to heaven and earth, bow to the elders, husband and wife bow to each other." Every bow was solid and festive. The ceremonial official drew out his voice announcing the rites complete, the cheers from the hall nearly lifting the roof. Songwan squeezed among the womenfolk, winking hard at me, grinning so wide her eyes nearly disappeared. I curved my lips slightly at her through the tassels. This liveliness, genuine and bustling, carried a scorching joy of new beginnings rushing right at me. The grand wedding complete, the banquet opened at the prince's manor. The hall full of guests, noisy and festive. I changed into a lighter red palace dress and accompanied Xiao Kei to toast the guests. At one spot, a young man acquainted with the Wang family had drunk too much and casually laughed. "Congratulations, Your Highness, Princess Consort." Back then we all thought the Princess Consort would. Halfway through, he was hurriedly yanked back by someone beside him. Songwan immediately cut in with a smile. "Young Master Li's had too much to drink." "On such a wonderful day, why bring up that old stale nonsense? Penalty drink, penalty drink." The man hurriedly apologized and drank as self-punishment. Xiao Kei's expression remained unchanged, raising his cup slightly in acknowledgement. I also nodded. "Enjoy yourself, young Master Li." With that, we moved on to the next table. That little episode was quickly drowned in the laughter filling the hall. When we reached the table where Zhao Zi and Li Huan sat, the atmosphere quieted slightly. Zhao Zi stood up, holding a narrow, elongated brocade box in his hands, a smile plastered on his face, yet his eyes were somewhat evasive and complicated. "Congratulations to His Highness Prince Jing, and congratulations to the Princess Consort." He first offered a toast, then pushed the brocade box slightly forward, lowering his voice. "Princess Consort, this is from Brother Yan. He couldn't come in person and entrusted me to deliver this to you personally," he said. Zhaozi paused for a moment. "His Adam's apple bobbing," he said. "Everything in the pastard. This jade ruyi is an old heirloom with the best symbolism that his mother prepared years ago from the Wang family treasury. He wishes the princess consort everything goes as she wishes from now on, and a smooth path ahead. He deeply regrets it." The brocade box was opened. Inside was a white jade ruyi, the jade warm and lustrous, the carving antique truly no ordinary piece. The banquet fell silent in an instant, countless gazes sweeping over, half hidden. Xiao Kei's hand holding the cup remained steady in midair, the smile on his face unchanged, only his gaze shifting slightly falling on my face. I looked at that jade ruyi, then raised my eyes to glance at Zhao Zi's nervous expression, and suddenly let out a soft laugh. I reached out, took the brocade box, my fingertips brushing over the cool and lustrous jade. "Thank you for conveying this, young Master Zhao," I said calmly. "Please also tell the young Lord Wang that I accept his blessings. Everything in the past I have forgotten entirely. I only wish him well too, and may we each find our own happiness." Having said that, I casually handed the brocade box to Qingdai behind me, then raised the wine cup in my hand, smiling slightly at everyone present. "Everyone, today is a joyous occasion. Please enjoy yourselves." The atmosphere livened up again. Xiao Kei's lips curved almost imperceptibly. and he drank the wine in the cup together with me. That jade ruby, like a quiet period mark, was gently closed amidst the clamor of the hall. Inside the red bed curtains, the dragon and phoenix wedding candles burned brightly. The heavy headdress had long been removed, black hair scattered across the pillow. Xiao Qi's breath enveloped me, carrying the scent of wine and his distinctive cool crispness. Kisses fell from the brow to the lips, gentle yet firm. Wang Fei, he murmured between his lips. I responded softly, my fingertips slipping into his loosened inner robe. Het spread, the temperature inside the curtains rising sharply. Sweat intertwined, gasps filled the air. At the height of passion, he clasped my fingers tightly, the grip somewhat heavy, and I squeezed back. After the most intense wave had passed, he still held me tightly, his lips pressed against my sweat-damp forehead. Heartbeats gradually synchronized in the silence, steady and strong. Su Wan, he called me, his voice hoarse. I responded drowsily, curling deeper into his embrace. Sleep. He pulled over the brocade quilt. We still have to enter the palace to give thanks tomorrow. Candlelight cast intertwined silhouettes on the curtains, swaying gently. All the past memories and old dreams, the noise and turmoil, quietly faded away in this night's warm embrace. The rest of life is long, and starting with this, it seems quite nice.